You may say to yourself, I really want to learn Italian, I just don't know how. Or you may be in the process of learning Italian and really struggling to speak or to understand the language. Today, I'm going to take you through why I learned Italian and 3 ways that you can apply my learning process to yours to help you actually learn and retain the language as you go through your learning process. People have different reasons for learning Italian, so maybe yours is because you're part of the Italian diaspora, you have Italian family, you have Italian friends. It doesn't necessarily mean you come from an Italian background. Maybe you just love the country, maybe you moved to the country and you want to learn the language. No matter what the reason, there's a lot of great ones to learn Italian, which I find to be one of the most beautiful languages on earth. Maybe I'm a little biased, but that's how I see it. The reason that I learned Italian is pretty simple. It comes down to passion, pride, and identity. For me, I wanted to pick up some Italian when I went to college because I felt like it was something that would tie me more to my heritage and allow me to have a deeper experience when I inevitably would study abroad in Milan. It ended up hitting all of those goals. I learned the language to a good enough degree to be able to communicate when I studied in Milan. I did a homestay there, which means I stayed with a local family who didn't speak any English. So I got to practice a lot more during that semester that I was there. And then post that semester, I've just continued to practice and improve and immerse myself as much as possible. But to break it down to the bare minimum, it just comes down to a passion that I had to learn the language due to my ancestral background, which a lot of people watching this, or just a lot of people in general, choose to learn a language for that reason. I find it to be a great reason to learn a language because that passion comes from deep inside you, your connection and your identity to your family. So now that you understand kind of the reason that I learned, which might relate to the reason that you're learning or want to learn Italian, let me give you 3 main ways that maybe aren't so obvious or common to help you learn this language and to learn it well. Number 1 is listening. Number 2 is talking to yourself. And number 3 is immersion. So to start with number 1, listening. A lot of people, or even classes that are offered in schools, they want you to talk and regurgitate words and sentences right away. I always go back to the point of when someone asks me, how should I start learning any language? But in this case, Italian, I tell them, how did you learn your native language? Most people always look at me like, what do you mean, how did I learn my native language? Like, it's obvious, you know, you learned it in your house as a kid, just listening to your parents. That's the point. Yes, maybe if you're an adult, your brain is more developed. Maybe you won't pick up things as fast because you don't have access to the language all day like you did as a child in your house. But it's the same concept. You listen, you learn the rhythm of the language, you learn words, you learn intonations by listening. Now, if you have 0 background in the language, you can't just start off by listening. So you have to start with, I don't know, something like Duolingo or something that you understand the structure of the language and learn some words. And then there's so much content out there to be able to pick up the kind of basic Italian. So, you know, look that up on YouTube or find different options, paid or unpaid, that are kind of at your level, and just start listening right away. And as you go along in your process of learning Italian, or if you're already in the middle of it, the best part is to find content that you can listen to that's at your level, but not even just that, that you're also interested in. A lot of times in school, when you're learning a language, you're given listening exercises, but a lot of times it's stuff that you don't care about. So if you can personally choose what you listen to, whether it's TV shows, podcasts, YouTube videos, music, things that you're interested in and that you like, it's going to help you retain the language and learn the language a lot better because you're engaged, you're paying attention, you're listening, and you're not bored. On top of that, it's just giving you exposure constantly to the language, especially if you're listening to content that's more colloquial or more, I would say, everyday language instead of just super professional educational, which is sometimes what you can learn in school. I think in terms of learning Italian, listening might be one of the most important parts, and because it is one of the quote-unquote premier languages or well-known languages across the globe. When you take into account how many languages there are on Earth, Italian is definitely in the top tier of content available, general knowledge, and just ease of access to learn the language. It's really helpful to listen as much as you can, especially every day. So whether you're starting to learn language or you're in the process of learning it and you feel like your process is not going well, I would always just suggest as fast as possible to get on a consistent listening basis. No matter what it is, make sure it's content that's interesting to you, regardless of whatever language it would be in. If you would watch it in your native language, it would be a great idea to then watch it in Italian, because that would help you a lot. So listening is definitely the first one. The second one is talking to yourself. And this sounds like I'm literally crazy or something. If you put a camera in where I live and it followed me around when I'm alone during different parts of the day, I think people would probably think I'm psycho. I'm talking to myself in all different languages throughout the day, a lot of the different languages that I speak. And to the average person, it looks like I'm nuts talking to myself, answering myself, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, you don't always have the opportunity to have direct contact with native speakers in the language or people that speak the language. So sometimes speaking it to yourself is the best way to practice. You can also listen to yourself, hear yourself. It helps you think through the language. It helps you think through vocabulary words. If you're describing your day or you're describing different situations, it allows you to use different verb tenses. It allows you to talk about different perspectives on things. And I think that has helped me immensely. Even though it may sound weird and it may give you a little bit of embarrassment at first, whether you're in the shower or you're getting ready or you're cooking, whether you're alone or you're not alone, if you don't have as much shame of talking to yourself when other people are present, whether it be a roommate or family member, I think that's a huge way to improve your speaking, because it also improves your confidence. When you have a little bit of confidence to speak out loud at all, it's very different when you're speaking to someone than just talking to yourself. But it at least gives you that practice and the thought in your head of, wow, if I can sit here for 5 minutes and talk to myself about my day and describe it fully in a pretty fluent way, I could probably do that with somebody else. And I think it gives you a little bit more willingness to try. So not only does talking to yourself help give you practice, help give you contact with the language, especially in your brain, it also gives you a little bit of confidence, because it's going from, okay, I'm not talking at all, to now I'm talking to myself, and the next step is talking to someone else, which is my point 3, which is immersion. This is not always easy. If you don't live in Italy, if you live somewhere where there's not a lot of fluent or native Italian speakers, it's extremely hard to find someone to speak to on a consistent basis that will immerse you in the language. So I always recommend, if you're younger, take the opportunity to study there if you have the chance, and then when you do that, make sure you take every advantage to actually be immersed in the language. It's very hard. You're always going to want to go back to your native language. You're not going to want to just live in this uncomfortability of a language that you're maybe a basic intermediate speaker in. I understand that. I've been there with multiple languages. You just have to throw yourself into the fire and be immersed in that language to really get the practice. If you don't have the opportunity to travel to Italy or study in Italy, or have an Italian community that you can find nearby in your city or your town, obviously look for that first, because that's another great option behind obviously going to the source, which is Italy, would be to find those organizations or groups that you can be a part of, whether they're language exchanges or language groups in your city, in your school, if you go to school, your university, whatever it may be, or start one yourself. There are Italians everywhere in the world, and I think there's a lot of people willing to help you with the language, speak the language with you. You just have to have the willingness to go out and find it. If you're unable to get immersed in those ways, there's obviously plenty of other opportunities as well. If you just do a basic search online, there's a lot of apps, there's a lot of places where you can pay to speak with local or native speakers, and in some cases, you kind of offer the opposite. So if you're a native English speaker, you find a native Italian speaker on one of these services, and you speak with them in Italian, and your payment is also them getting the opportunity to speak back to you in English, or there's tutors that you can speak with. There's a lot of paid options, but I always say the route of going free first is the best, especially for learning a language, because there's so many resources out there, and especially when it's a language like Italian, where there truly are a lot of resources. You're not learning an extremely niche language with a couple thousand speakers. This is a language with tens of millions of speakers globally and a lot of people that have interest in it. So back to my 3 points, which are listening, talking to yourself, and immersion in the language. They all have varying levels of difficulty. I get that. It's not easy to do all of those, either from a confidence, a shame, or just an opportunity point of view. But those are 3 ways that really helped me learn the language. Listening so much to Italian content, talking to myself as much as I possibly could in Italian at home, and then getting the immersion experience of studying in Italy and having visited there a lot and trying to use Italian whenever I can, whenever it's in my environment, and not being afraid to and constantly throwing myself into the fire. So those are some reasons why I learned the language and how I learned the language, and I hope this can be helpful to you to get started on your journey or to get over the obstacle in your journey if that's where you're at. I'm sure a lot of you as well that will watch are fluent in Italian or speak Italian pretty well, so also leave in the comments how you learn the language and what some of your advice would be to people. And speaking of the Italian language, a lot of regional dialects in the Italian language itself came into the US and was adapted to our local speech. And I wrote a book about this. Italian Diaspora Words, Volume 1. 15 Italian American words that you grew up hearing and that you might still use that came from different Italian dialects and regional languages and became part of Italian American slang. Words like aspet or strunz that maybe your grandparents said, your parents said, or that you still use. This book is available in ebook only, and you can check my link in description to get yours today. And if you like content like this, talking about the Italian language and talking about how people in the diaspora might have a passion for something, whether it be visiting an ancestral town or learning the language to reconnect or to connect deeper with their heritage, then ORIUNDI is for you. I look forward to all the comments below on your journey about learning Italian, any questions that you may have. I'm no expert, but any questions or any other advice you can give other viewers if you have learned the language, because I really do believe that the diaspora learning Italian is extremely important. And if you have the opportunity to do it and the time and the passion, then go for it. And parliamo italiano insieme, okay? That's all for today. Ciao for now, e alla prossima.